Hi, my name is Dr. Maeva Clark, and I support parents and caregivers of neurodivergent children by providing emotional support and practical tools without burnout while they guide their children towards meaningful friendships. Do you know what neurodivergent means? Neurodivergent refers to the way an individual's brain behaves, process information, or learn differently than that of which are considered normal or neurotypical. Diagnoses that fall in alignment with neurodivergent may be autism, ADHD, and dyslexia. Did you know that 1 in 5 children learn or think differently, and that they um, experience either anxiety, isolation, or bullying every single day? And behind each one of those children is an educator or a parent that is doing their best to meet the child's needs, and yet they feel empty or overwhelmed. Well, tonight I'm going to talk to you about bullying. We're going to go over bullying. And I have a platform called CASIN, Collaborative Advancement for Social and Emotional Needs. And we focus on anti bullying, friendship, uniting kids together, and advancing together as a team. We move forward. In that CASIN, we bridge the gap between social and emotional learning that students or children learn in school to their real lives at home. And we tend to do this through different social media apps. But first, let's go over bullying. What is bullying? Many people think bullying is just physical, but what you don't know is there are different types of bullying. For one, we have verbal bullying, and verbal bullying is yelling, name calling, teasing, and even taunting someone else or threatening to do harm. That is bullying. It's called verbal bullying. Then we have social bullying, and some people use the term relational bullying. Social bullying includes leaving someone out on purpose, telling other children not to be friends with someone, or spreading false rumors about someone, or embarrassing someone in public. That's social bullying. So just because your child hasn't experienced physical bullying doesn't mean that they haven't experienced bullying. And then physical bullying is hitting, pinching, or kicking someone, spitting on someone, tripping or pushing someone, and taking and breaking someone's things. That's considered physical bullying. And making rude hand gestures is physical bullying. And then we're going to address cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is bullying that occurs over social media. It can occur over email, phone, text, and there are different platforms for that. So cyberbullying involves sending, posting, or sharing harmful, false, or mean-spirited content intended to hurt or humiliate someone. Behavior can significantly impact a child's emotional and mental well-being and may have long-lasting consequences. So something that's important to Chris Jr. and I is teaching children and parents and caregivers and educators about the some of the ramifications of bullying and how to prevent bullying. So this idea of casing really stemmed from my son, Chris Jr. Chris experienced some bullying when he was younger, and Chris took boxing since he was like 9 years old. So he knew how to handle himself physically, and the kids didn't trip in that way because they knew that they would have that to do with Chris. So he wasn't physically bullied, but he did experience social isolation. And as a mom, having my son um, struggle in school and with peers at times, and it wasn't all the time, but it definitely came in waves. He definitely had to navigate those waters, which was lonely for him at times. And I believe that a lot of it was because he was socially and emotionally immature. He was approximately 2 years behind his peers and he stuttered. So when Chris would get really excited um, about something, he would stutter. And that made it a little more challenging to keep up with in the conversation. So that being said, if he was talking to people at school, and I believe he's a slower processor anyway, but so am I. I'm just a little more skilled, so I can navigate that space differently. But when you have a slow processor mixed with someone who's already socially emotionally behind, that puts them even further behind a conversation or further behind the eight ball. And then you add on stuttering on top of that, and it gave him a complete disadvantage with his peer group. So what Chris had to navigate at times was social isolation because kids would be mean um, by leaving him out, or sometimes he might have been picked last for group activities and things. And as a mom, that hurt. That hurt to watch that process. And you know what hurt even, I think made that hurt even more or sting more as a parent. When I was younger, I wasn't what you would consider the popular kid. However, I held my own. I always had friends. And because I was a little tougher, I didn't have a problem with people coming against me and trying to bully me because I could hold my own. And on the flip side, I was the kid who befriended kids that were picked on so people would leave them alone because they wouldn't pick on me or they wouldn't come against me, fight me or anything. So I would befriend that person. Um, I really, really, really felt bad because I always wished that there was a me for my son when he was growing up. I wish that there was someone that would have taken him on the wing, under their wing, like I took other kids under my wing, but that never happened. Um, I just say that because you may be experiencing some of that. That's social bullying. If you have a child that is neurodivergent who learns or think differently or may not be as quick, they may be targeted even more than uh, the average child. The difference also is they may not verbally be able to tell you when something is happening or when people are doing things to them. So it's even more important for you as a parent to pay attention to your child and to watch the signs and to see their mental state or to see how they're navigating and moving along because God knows um, it's even more challenging if they're not verbally telling you what's going on. And then I have my daughter who was like me in that um, she looked out for kids that were picked on. Now, differently than me, she didn't befriend them and stand up to bullies the same way. But what she would do is see what was going on and go tell the teacher, and she would advocate for the child that she witnessed, or she would support them in that way. And she chose to get an adult involved to stop it. So at Kaysen, this is something that's really near and dear to our hearts because of personal experiences. And then when it comes to cyberbullying, Chris experienced cyberbullying mainly because he wasn't socially um, up, up to speed to be on social media. We didn't want him to get on Facebook because we didn't think he was mature enough, but he went behind our backs and he did it anyway. Chris was about 14 when this happened. And that may be a time when most people think their kids are okay to be on there. We still didn't think Chris was ready. And to prove our point, I was the first person that he friend requested when he snuck and got an account. But as parents, we chose not to tell him to take it down. Instead, we became his friends and we monitored his page and we um, helped him navigate that space. So thank the Lord, Chris has a father who's involved and who cares, and he has a social network with his friends that also cared, and they became Chris Jr.'s friends, and they were his village that helped him become appropriate on social media. And this was a painful process. It was a learning curve. So when Chris was on there, he befriended people he didn't know in real life. He had probably like 4,000 Facebook friends. So he reached out to people, people reached out to him, he accepted them. And a lot of these people were adults. A lot of them, it was inappropriate. He had no reason or no of being there. They connected with them. But again, my husband and his friends were there to help guide him. So when they would see inappropriate things that people posted on his timeline, if my husband saw it first, he would talk to my son. If his friends saw it first, they would let my husband know, and then he would talk to my son. But um, he would help him navigate those posts. He taught him how to block people. He taught him how to unfriend people. And ultimately, this process taught him who to be friends with and who not to be friends with. And so it was a process. And this is a process that when my son graduated high school and went to college, and my husband asked him, "What do you wish you had that you didn't have in school that could help kids today?" And he said, "I wish that I wanted to build a social media app that would teach kids how to be safe online who might not have the village that I had." And to me, that was powerful because he wanted to take his pain and turn it into purpose. What I didn't say to you was most of the people that were bullying him online were adults, and it was during the 2016 election because my son posted about his support for President Obama, and he was called the N word. He was told all kinds of things during this process that really hurt him. And as a consequence, he dealt with anxiety, which led to bouts of depression. And we don't want that for anybody. We don't want anyone to experience anything like that. And so, what we in turn do is we have our case and outreach where we go out into the community and we talk to children, we talk to parents, we talk to educators about the importance of keeping kids safe online. And we teach why it's good to only accept friend requests or be friends with people you know in real life and not just people out in the world that you don't know. Chris tells his story of what that could lead to. And thank God he had a father and he had uncles and friends and a mother who cared and who monitored him and who was in tune enough with him to see this and guide him through. And he could have those courageous conversations with, because where could he be if he didn't, you know? And unfortunately, we have children who don't have that outlet or who don't feel safe to go and say something to an adult. They may not have a trusted adult that they can rely on. And some of these kids commit suicide and or attempt suicide because of other kids being mean. And it breaks my heart to hear of such a thing. It just breaks my heart to know that these little babies that just barely got here to live are taking their lives. And Chris and I presented um, a series of workshops at a summer camp, and we had two groups. One was ages 7 to 10, and the other one was 11 to 14. And we loved it, and we did anti-bullying, we did all these messages and things, and we loved it. And at first, the kids didn't want to be there because you go to summer camp to have fun, right? And yet we were there to teach them. But let me tell you, by the third week, they were running into their seats. They were sitting down. They were all in. They were engaged and everything. It really felt good. So at the end of the um, of our session, I think we were there for like 6 weeks. At the end, I did a survey to see what the students like, what they would have liked to have had, or what we could do to improve. And it was bittersweet for me because the sweet part was I was so um, glad when they asked, could we come back next year? And they said, Dr. Clark, thank you for creating a safe place to talk. And all of that felt so good. And it boosted Chris, Chris's self-confidence as well, because we knew we were on the right path, the right trajectory of what it was that we were trying to accomplish. The bitter part was one of the comments, I think we had two comments, but one of the comments was, I wish you would have had talked more about suicide. And that broke my heart because I tell you, the oldest child there was 14. So that meant someone between the ages of 7 and 14 either was contemplating suicide or they knew someone that had committed suicide or something was on their mind to want us to talk more about it because we did brush over it because we were talking about some of the ramifications of social media. So bullying is real. as I'm sure you've had some type of experience with it, either personally with yourself growing up or with one of your children or something you may have just heard on TV. But I'm sure you're aware that it could be cruel out here. Now, another thing that we do at Payson is when we're educating the children about bullying, we want to help them identify what bullying is and identify if they've ever been bullied or if they've witnessed bullying or if they are in fact a bully. Sometimes kids are bullies and don't even realize it because if they think that bullying only involves physical bullying and they never hit a child, then think that they could actually think that they are not bullies when they are committing one of the other forms. They could either be verbally bullying, socially bullying, or a cyberbullying someone and not even know that they're being bullies. So we educate them. And when we're at the summer camp, by the end, the kids were telling openly stories of them being bullied or witnessing bullying, and they said they didn't speak up, but they were saying that they would. And one of the kids said that he thanked us because he realized he was a bully and he didn't want to do that again. And so it was just really, really an awesome space. So I want to also educate parents and educators because yeah, you get it in school. You have these people coming and speak, and you even be teaching it yourself. But to me, there's nothing more powerful than a personal story, than a personal journey. So we help parents navigate the space because, as I told you when I first opened, how 1 in 5 children who learn and think differently experience anxiety, isolation, and bullying every single day. And behind each one of those kids is an educator or a loving parent that's doing their best to help their children, and they're left feeling empty or overwhelmed because they don't even know what else to do. And if you find yourself in that space, then I encourage you to join me the first Tuesday of every month for my MOAC, Mothers of Exceptional Kids support group. Because in MOAC, we we go over these things. We go over this space. What can you do if you find your child in that situation? Whether your child is neurodivergent or neurotypical, you may have experienced that. You may have experienced feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, or at your wit's end because you don't know what else to do. You may have gone to the schools, complained, told your story, and don't feel like enough is being done. Join us so you can see what some of the other parents have done in that space or get some of the tools that you can use or to advocate further for your child. Do you know what to say? Do you know your rights? Do you know that if you're not getting the justice that your child deserves from the school, do you know that you can get law enforcement involved? You know, these are the type of things I want to help parents do and help them navigate this space. Um, if you are a parent of a child who has been bullied, if you are an adult who has experienced bullying as a child, or if you witnessed it, I want you to reach out. I want you to say me in the chat. I want you. I want to hear your story. I really want to create this safe space for you to share your story or the story of your child because everybody needs to hear it. Everybody needs to hear it because we need to know how you overcame, or we need to know what support you need to overcome what you're dealing with. And I believe that everyone needs a safe space to communicate this. And so, what I'm going to do is I'm also looking at, and you'll hear more of this later, but I'm looking to write another collaboration book. I want to write a book about bullying. I want people to share their stories. I want people to share if their child has been bullied in one of these fashions, whether it's verbal, social, physical, or cyberbully. I want to hear it. I want to hear if you were as a child. And guess what? You might be bullied as an adult. Are you bullied at work? Do they try to get you to do something you don't want to do, or do they isolate you at work? That's bullying. Just because you grow up don't mean um you can't be bullied. It's not just exclusive for children. And young jerks can grow up to be older jerks, you know. Hopefully most people learn to temper that and they mature and they get better, but unfortunately everyone don't. Everyone doesn't get better. Um, and we need to know. So maybe you need this information to help navigate the workplace. Who knows? But I'm going to be looking for authors, co-authors, to share their story of bullying with me because I know from hand experience that there is healing in the process of writing or storytelling. So it's healing for the author as well as it is for the reader. So it's very, 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 very important for us to get our stories out. And that being said, I wrote my first book, Help Support for Parents of Children with Learning and Thinking Differences to Feel Confident, Capable, and Fulfilled. And in Help, I talk about the 25 years of experience that I had with my son, Chris. Chris will be 28 this year, so I wrote this book almost 3 years ago. It came out in 2023. But it tells our story and our journey. And one of my chapters, chapter 9, is about bullying and some of the things that, you know, he dealt with. And I go into detail about his experience on social media during the presidential elections. And so that's in this book. Another time I'll read part of it with you. And then um so I think that's a really good book. Not just because I wrote it, but I wrote it from a parent perspective, but as an educator, I did a literature review, and there are over 100 references in this book because I really, really wanted to support parents and I wanted to give them a good starting ground for how to navigate the space. And I put the references in the back of the book. So if there was a particular section that the parent or caregiver liked, then they could go to the references in the book and do a deeper dive and go straight to the source where I got the information from. So I definitely think that book is is a powerful tool. Again, it's experience based, and then I did a basically reviewed some of the literature of what was out there, reported what I found, and then put the references in that book. I have a glossary in the book that talks about the anything that I defined in the book. I put a glossary in the back of the book with all of the definitions, and you can actually go to my website and print out the glossary, um, or and the references to support you on your quest for information. Bullying can affect a person's mental health, um, and unfortunately, like I mentioned, as it affects your mental health, it could cause someone to do self-harm. We definitely don't want that. We want to empower children with the tools to build their self-confidence before they go on social media, so they'll know their worth and value differently. So they'll know that they don't need to tolerate and take just any old thing from any old body, and that negative attention is not better than no attention at all. So we build the children up. We focus on kids emotionally between 9 and 13, and they can be a little younger if they're mature, they could be a little older if they're immature. But we basically want to build them up, let them know what bullying is, so that if they experience it or witness it, they will be have the courage to report it. Very, very, very important. Um, with that, Cason's approaches, we want kids to pause before they post. We want them to realize that everything they post online leaves a trail. It's like their digital footprint. It can trace back to them, and they must be kind online, and it will come back potentially to bite them. There are people who didn't get jobs because when the job or the employer looked at their social media platform, they did not like what they saw, and they did not hire that individual. So we want kids to know that even when things disappear, like on Snapchat, they don't necessarily really disappear once they post this out there forever, because someone could have screenshot or took a picture of that post or whatever, and now that content really hasn't disappeared. So we need them to know the importance of being mindful before they post. Um, and we want them to lead with kindness. We don't want them to just identify bullying. We want them to be kind, and we need to model uh kindness for our children. So three actionable steps you can do today to help your children to be safe online. You can model kindness because your tone becomes their template. So you need to be kind and show up that way. You can create open dialogue, make it safe to talk about online experiences. If you come down on your child when they present something to you that you don't like, the primary reaction will be they're going to close up and not share with you. If they think that you're going to bring the hammer and you're going to get on them for something they saw or something they did, they're less likely to come to you. So you want to have that open dialogue where they can come to you about anything, even if you don't like it, but that you will allow them to share, and in a calm way, explain to them why you didn't like it, and what you guys can do about the situation. And you can use social emotional learning tools by having them name their emotion, practice empathy, and you could teach resilience. So, those are three steps and things you can do for your child. But if you need help with that, I'm more than willing. Actually, I want to help you. I want to support you. And my call to action for you would be to join our Mothers of Exceptional Kids support group. It is free. It is a free support group which meets every first Tuesday of the month from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Eastern Daylight Time. So I really would love to see you there. Help me help you, help your children to be safe online and to prevent being bullied. And one final thought on that is just because a child is bullied doesn't mean they have to become a victim. And we want to help them not become victims. It's your mindset and it's your approach to what you are experiencing that matters. Again, my name is Dr. Maeva Clark, and I support parents and caregivers of neurodivergent children by providing emotional support and practical tools without burnout while they guide their children towards meaningful friendships. Thank you. I look forward to connecting with you and see you next time. Bye.